vulnerable, bad people can smell it. You know, they can, you know, they hone in on you and they can smell it.
Hello, this is Basil Babychan, a neoclassical musician with music that carries melodic messages. Messengers is my video series that is dedicated to everyday heroes amongst us. Through their life experiences, they are beacons of hope and inspiration for us all. Now, if you like what I do and want to watch more of these, or melodic messages, or simply listen to neoclassical music, hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into the next video.
Good evening to you, Kym, and thank you for joining me on Messengers. I won't go into too many details. I will let you introduce yourself. But for those who are watching Kym, I know her through Instagram. I have been following Kym and a lot of her work on Instagram. The only thing I know about her is that she's an anti-aging activist. And today what we're trying to do is to explore more about what Kym does, why she does what she does, and what keeps the fire burning. So Kym, tell us something about your journey and tell us why you're doing what you're doing.
I'm 59 next month, and I am really, really keen to remain flexible and fit for the long term, for the whole term, if you like. So when I grew up, when I was young, I lived with my grandparents, and my grandma suffered from rheumatoid arthritis from her 20s, and she lived out her life in a wheelchair. And I used to watch and listen every day when she would cry out in pain, because literally her hands were like this, and you know, she couldn't walk, and she lived in pain every single day of her life. And I feel that definitely was a trigger, or the foundation for everything that I believe in now. Because the thought of not being able to sort of walk or reach down for something or reach up for something really scares me. You know, I can't imagine being incapacitated. I was always fit when I was younger. I did ridiculous sports, like, you know, where you push yourself to the limit. So I would do Thai boxing or lots of weight training, or, you know, I used to do that kind of thing, thinking that was the right thing to do. And yoga to me back then was, you know, it was a little bit airy-fairy back in the day. And you thought, well, how can that do? You know, surely hardcore sport is better. But it was when I got older that I really kind of appreciated it. And I took myself off to the Himalayas. I went to yoga school in the Himalayas to learn to teach. And I just fell in love with it and what it could do for my mind, body and spirit. And I think I was about 55 then, so it wasn't, you know, that long ago. And I was just really pleased that my body was still able to do those kinds of moves, you know, and that I could regrow my flexibility almost. I mean, I wasn't, you know, terribly unfit, but it was still an inspiration to me that my body can still do it, and all of our bodies can still do it. But
Right. But what was it that I would say eventually made you want to, you know, make this a mission, kind of? Because what you're doing is not just for yourself, right? Why are you taking it a step further and trying to, you know, spread it? Yeah.
I was kind of doing that before. I'm always pretty active. I've always been the kind of person that likes to improve things. And fibromyalgia and stuff like that started coming to the media, and people that I knew were like my age and younger were suffering from things like fibromyalgia, and you know, it was seen to be a terrible disease, and then autoimmune disease was on the rise and things like that. And I was thinking, you know, there has to be an answer to all these things. It can't just be, you know, why has it suddenly appeared? You know, that there has to be a reason. And then when you look around at the way that everybody was living life, I mean, from the 90s, or actually maybe earlier, there was a big progression towards man-made food, and people stopped living off the planet. You know, I mean, we're biological creatures and we live on a biosphere. It's a no-brainer, it's a match. But kind of man has been so clever that he's recreated the very stuff that's, you know, grown on the earth to keep us alive. And you know, I just had all these questions tumbling around, and I started to do lots of studies. I was looking at scientific papers on Alzheimer's disease, because actually rheumatoid arthritis is an Alzheimer's disease. So I was doing a lot of studies, and I was looking at the people around me and listening to the people around me and thinking, you know, there's something off here, there's something off kilter. And aging, as we said earlier, it's kind of like a state of mind. It's our choice. But people are not looking at it as a choice, they're accepting that they're getting older and that is how it is. And I just thought, no, that's not how it is. So I would like to change that. And that's really kind of one of the reasons for my Instagram page. I was, funny enough, I was down celebrating a friend's birthday on Sunday, and I was at a restaurant down on the seafront. I live quite big. And a lady came over to me and said, "Are you Kym?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Oh, I just wanted to tell you," she said, "my friend follows your Instagram page. She said, you're so cool and really inspiring. She said, and I've just started to follow you." And I was a bit embarrassed, and I said, "Well, thank you, that was really kind." But that just, you know, that's one person who's seen that, and it's making a difference to them. So social media for that purpose works a bit like that as well.
Right. And you spoke about a little bit about your childhood and bullied, and did the bullying have anything to do with your weight or your appearance? Has that played any role in how you perceive yoga and what you're doing for?
It wasn't really weight. It was so I come from the East End of London, which is you know, very rough, very poor. And when I was a child in the 60s, and all of the children around, you know, they came from poor families. It's a dockland area, so families were dockers. My granddad was a docker. And all the children, you know, they had hand-me-down clothes and, you know, but my nan loved me so much that somehow she managed to, I don't know, spoil me. I had the best dresses. I had a man bring me shoes, and I could choose my shoes, and I had everything nice. That doesn't go down too well in a school full of people that don't have very much. So you can see why the other children, you know, didn't like me very much. And I always had the nice toys and the latest things. So it's understandable why they didn't. But as a child, I didn't see that. I didn't know that. I just knew that I had these things. You know, so I can understand why I was bullied. And I was really badly bullied. So I lived my life in the library. I used to spend my time in the library reading books. And that's been with me my whole life. I've read, you know, so much. With really, reading books is an education. So I'm very grateful for that. It didn't really get easier as I got older either, because, you know, it was not having loads of friends as a child. It doesn't really teach you all the social, how to interact like most people. So I was a little bit odd, a little bit of a misfit, you know, couldn't really find my people. And then my nan, she died just before my 13th birthday, and life got really bad. I went into care and, you know, was homeless and all that kind of stuff. It was a real roller coaster of a ride. Yeah, up to the 20s.
Okay, and so you mentioned the library, and you also mentioned your nan. Would any of these be within memories that you cherish? Or I think you're pretty well read. Would you credit that to the consequences of being bullied, and therefore you're sitting in the library, or was it the experience and the time that you spent with your nan that you thought was the one that has been foundational towards your character? So essentially what I'm trying to ask is, which areas of your childhood became foundational towards what you are today in terms of your personality?
It was definitely the library, because I just read the books. The children in the books were my friends, if you like. That's where I got all my information from. But also, my nan was very, very smart. She was a very smart woman. I mean, how could she afford clothes to me like that when we came from a poor family? But the other thing that has been foundational within my entire life was the food, the healthy food, because my granddad tried to heal my nan with food. And he would say to me, we would always drink the water from the greens. He would say to me, drink this, it's going to clean your blood. So he knew a lot about food, and that was just second nature in our house.
What has been your exposure, or connection with people or friends, family, or others who have been exposed to this? Because you seem to be quite keen on trying to change the way this has been dealt with.
Yeah, I'm very. I've done talks on this at the local community centre, because I've always wanted to get to the bottom of why my nan was crippled in a wheelchair from the age of 20s. Also, like I say, when I was looking at these scientific papers, what I was reading was about the herpes viruses. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there are 8 that affects humans, but it's the main 4. So these 4 viruses, they live in your body forever. The EBV, the Epstein-Barr virus, I think was discovered in the 70s. Now that one is, a lot of people call it mono. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's glandular fever. And 95%, and you look at research, 95% of the globe, that's the globe, that's the whole world, has EBV. So if you don't get it as a child, which is very, very easy, because when you're feeding a child, often you put your spoon in the mouth to cool down the food, and you give it to the child, you've just passed on a virus. When you get EBV, it gives you glandular fever or a sore throat. I think the Americans call it mono. So if you haven't picked it up as a child, your first kiss, or as you go through that period as a teenager, that's when you're likely to get it.
Right.
EBV then lives in your system, and it lives in your spleen for the rest of your life. That's where it stays. But if you're eating wrong, and you're not looking after yourself, these viruses can become active and cause a lot of problems. And EBV in particular likes to soften squashy organs. So gallbladder, anyone with gallbladder disease, thyroid, it likes the thyroid. So people with thyroid problems and gallbladder problems should look towards these viruses and eat clean to, calm them down and help them regain their health. Viruses are living in most of the people, and we live, I guess they're symbiotic. But when you're not eating properly, when you're not living properly, when you're not exercising, when you're not looking after your mindset, mind, body, spirit again, that is when you're at risk from becoming ill. And too much of that. So my whole theory on autoimmune disease is this. Our bodies are too clever to attack themselves. The doctors will say that it's your body attacking itself. Your body would never do that. But what it will do is attack or try to attack a tiny virus because it knows it's there. The tiny virus, it infiltrates our cells and then replicates itself. That's what it does. But our bodies know it's there, so they're attacking that. That's what they're after. They're not attacking itself. And I think that information or that theory is something that people with autoimmune disease should look into themselves. They don't have to listen to me or believe me. If I can be that trigger and they can then do their own research, then they can start to improve their health.
Right. And so you mentioned you went from being bullied to a children's home, but I think the situation is quite different, right? Like, you know, in one case you are the aggressor in a way, or you perceive, because the reasons for which you thought you were being bullied is because people perceived you as being above the rest, right? And then you move into a situation where you enter a children's home where you are amongst the worst in terms of what life has to offer for such children. Was that a big transition? Because that's a pretty impactful move, I would imagine, from having a nana, being the pet of your nana, and then...
Yeah, I wasn't prepared for it at all. It was a horrendous time. I used to run away a lot. And, you know, what I discovered during my teenage years is when you're vulnerable, bad people can smell it. You know, they can, you know, they hone in on you and they can smell it. So it wasn't a really good time, but I learned a lot of lessons. I would say I was spiraling out of control then, definitely. And this is the thing as well, this is something, a big lesson that I learned. Like, I used to think if it was going to happen, it was going to happen to me, because that was the experience. I was having bad experience after bad experience after bad experience. And I just got myself in that belief system, and it's almost like I was attracting it. So, you know, I managed to turn my life around when I had my son. I got pregnant, but I was homeless and I was in a hostel, and then I had to go to a convent because the hostel insurance didn't cover it. And then I got preeclampsia toxemia and was on hospital bed rest for 2 months. Then I had an emergency cesarean, and then I woke up with a tag tied to my toe, which meant I had died at some point doing this. Yeah, it just, my life was chaos. But when I had a child, I was like, I have to do something about this. I have to turn it around, you know, and that's kind of when I tried to turn it around and, you know, eventually got there.
Did this experience help light your own fire? What did you find most uplifting? Put that in the comments below. Do you have an inspirational story to share? Get in touch. There's a link in this description. I am Basil Babychan, a musician, manager, and believer. If you like what I do and want to watch more of these, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Keep that fire burning, and see you on the next one.